Hello, beautiful people. Welcome, 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 one and all. Welcome to another episode on the Growth Project podcast. My name is Shreef, and I am forever your host. For everyone who is in the building tonight, shout out YouTube, shout out Instagram, shout out wherever you guys are listening. Come on in. When you come on in, just put a heart down below wherever you're looking from. Put a heart down below. We are continuing our divine feminine discussions this week. And just like last week, I'm going to bring up our guest today. She is called the Love Scientist. Last week, you guys got to know all about her mission, why she's here, her book. And today we're going to be talking about relationships. So last week we set the foundation for self-love and how to create more self-love within yourself and cultivate self-love and your confidence, etc. And today we're going to be talking about that, especially in regards to relationships. So self-love, confidence, self-esteem, these are all things that are important in relationships. And as spiritual women, we when we're healing, when we're on a healing journey, dating may look a little bit different now than it did in the past when we were younger or when we were not as aware of ourselves. So today I've invited Keisha, aka the Love Scientist, to talk all about healing, heartbreak, and relationships as spiritual women. So join me, everyone, in welcoming the one and only the Love Scientist.
Hi, everyone. Hey, Sharice.
Hello, beautiful.
How you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. I'm like, let's get into it. I'm always like that. Thank you for slowing me down and being like, how are you? I'm doing great. So thank you for once again joining us this week. I'm very excited for tonight's conversation. Even last week's conversation, it went so well. I was looking back at the replay and I was just like, damn, we went deep. It was so insightful. And there was just so much gems already. And I was like, I know as we keep going throughout the weeks, more and more will come. So I'm just very happy to have you here again. And I cannot wait for our conversation today.
Yes, thank you for having me. And Jemmy, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. We're happy to have you. Thanks for tuning in.
I love that. Yes, you are the first one here. Hold on, let me make sure. Let me make sure Instagram sees us. Sorry, Instagram was not seeing us. My bad. So today, like I said, it's all about relationships. We're going to be talking about as well all type of relationships, right? So friendships, romantic relationships, platonic relationships, relationships with our tribe, right? We both have audiences. We both show up online. So those type of things and how that has been different for us since we've been on our healing journey. So my first question for you, Keisha, would be that how has having more self-love and being more spiritual and going upon a spiritual journey, how has that affected your relationships in general?
Okay.
I'm not going to hold on. I don't want to use the word affected. Impacted your relationships.
My relationships have been impacted. I feel like as I've gotten more further along in my spiritual journey, that the type of people that I'm connected to, the caliber of people, the men who are attracted to me, that has changed completely. Like, it's way better than it's ever been. Versus in the past where I didn't have boundaries, there was a lack of self-love and self-worth. There were people in my circle that didn't have the best intent for me, and I feel like I kept those people around because they were familiar. They were I had I had so much time invested in these relationships, but they lack quality. And as I got older, and then also being West Indian, growing up, and our parents always telling us that not everybody's your friend, and you having a soft heart, and you're like, but they are my friend, they care about me, and your parents are seeing right through that, like they are not your friend. And there would so the further I've gotten along my journey, the I've seen improvements. The more I love myself. I don't there's you have to I'm able to communicate and say upfront, this is what I require in order for us to exchange energy. Like I said, like there's a standard. And if you don't meet me within that standard, I don't want to exchange energy with you. And I have that option and that choice because I'm very selective about the people that I have around me now. How about yourself?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I was about to ask you before I answer, would you say that before you were on your self-love journey and your spiritual journey and just getting to know yourself better, how were your standards?
I was a people pleaser. Um I didn't want to drop short of that, of being a friend. But also as time goes on, you realize that, wait, the way my definition of a friend is not your definition of a friend. What you think is okay and acceptable for how you should be treated is not the same definition or expectation that I have for myself. And that's okay. And that's why I'm so big on communication. Because if I tell you what it is, if I say, just know that if you screw me over or you fall short within this friendship or connection, I will remove myself, and then you will not get the same version of me back. And I think because I'm so blunt and honest with that, a lot of people can't handle that. So
Mm,
when that time comes, they think it's a game. They think that I'm not going to stand on business, but I told you what it was. So I held you to a standard, my standard, and you fell short. So that's it. That's it. I
mm.
used to give so many second chances, three chances. Like, no, no, life is losing my mom has taught me so much. Like, I can't accept certain things. I have to hold myself at a higher level. And in order to weed out the people that are not supposed to be around, these are the things that have to be in place, and these are the expectations that we I have for you, and I will be evaluating you throughout the duration of our friendship. Whereas in the past, because me and you, Sharice, we're friends. Oh, you don't get a report card because you've been shooting with me in the gym. Whereas no, if you're not following through, if you're just taking, it's not an equal exchange. It has reciprocity still has to be there as well. This shit gets deep.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you speak when you speak, I see so much your chart. Because I just seen your chart a little bit and just like, that Libra energy and just being people pleaser. I feel like it's so easy for Libras to fall into people pleasing just because it is literally the energy of relatability. Tell me the word relatably. I can't say it.
um,
Relatably.
relatability,
Relatability.
relatability.
Thank you.
I heard
Thank
your
you.
accent. It's
My
relatability.
yeah. My accent was coming out. I was like, what is that? Exactly. It's literally the energy of relating. So it's sometimes it's just like you get to a point where you're relating so much that you're like not respecting yourself and your boundaries. So totally. When it came to me, thank you for asking me the question as well.
Yeah.
And I love that I saw some questions in the chat. So we're gonna put up the questions, and for anyone who's here, this is perfect. Please, please, please ask questions in the chat today. We're really having a conversation and a discussion, and we really want to bring you guys in as well and be able to answer your questions or even, hear your own perspectives on certain things. But throughout my healing journey and my self-love journey, my relationships and friendships have definitely evolved as well. I would say that before, same. I was just hanging out with people just to hang out. And I would also hang out with people even if we didn't really align mentally, which right now is so important for me. So it's not that we need to have all the same interests, but we need to be mentally and energetically going in it, like have a similar understanding. I feel like before I was just hanging out with people no matter what, like I wouldn't be okay with their values, but I would still hang out with them. Now, because of the work that I've done, I
Mhm.
cannot really be you cannot be in my inner circle if we don't have similar values. I know we're saying mentally, but no, the word is values that I was trying to find, because value, what you value in life is like it's going to dictate your behavior. It's going to dictate so much things, right? It's like you said, standards. If you value like faithfulness and stuff like that, then you're going to be that type of person. But if you don't care, if you don't value like relationships, if you don't value love, then you're going to be the type of person who's cheating, who's doing, and like I'm not gonna be around that, right?
Mhm.
Or I don't know, like there's just some people who just value like, anyways, if the values don't align, that's where my relationships have kind of shifted for me. I feel like now I have a lot of people around me where we're, if not going in similar directions, we still have a similar understanding of life. I have a lot of people around me now who are big in self development, who are big in taking part, like doing the work. They're big on taking accountability.
Mhm.
So those are things that I feel like mirror my own work, basically. Because before I didn't do that, so I was just surrounded by whatever and whoever. But once I started like investing in myself, taking myself more seriously, taking my healing more seriously, definitely the people that I started to be around aligned as well. I talk a lot about this in my personal podcast, but before, I feel like I wasn't myself, I wasn't authentic, and then when I started to heal, I started having a better relationship with myself, and I started being more really me and allowing myself to be and like forgiving myself. And then as well, I started attracting people who were just more aligned with me, who loved me. I started practicing self-love, so I now found people who loved me just for me, who valued similar things as I did, who didn't see my faults and ran away, who took accountability, like I said. So those are ways that my relationships have evolved. I would say though that going on a spiritual journey, I did lose a lot of relationships, but not lose. I would just say a lot of relationships fell off. And
Mhm.
I feel like we all go through this point in our journey where when get like you have your spiritual awakening, where it becomes a little bit lonely.
Yes, talk about it.
But I will say to whoever is listening that on the other side of that loneliness, like you will find your people. Just keep going. And I know we're going to talk about finding our tribes later, but I was definitely a little bit lonely in a period, especially when I was just figuring out myself, figuring out everything, and like just the whole awakening process. But I'm happy to like now have people in my life that I can count on, that support me, who I love, who love me, who see me fully, and to be able to be making connections, like super aligned connections like we're having right now. So and I don't think I would have done that before. So My relationships have definitely changed since I started cultivating more self-love. Absolutely, 100%.
I loved everything you said. You said so much. The part that I want us to talk about is the healing of, or like, as we're shedding those old relationships and connections that hurt. Like, knowing sometimes people think when you choose you, you don't love them. And that's not the case. You put me in a position where I had to choose myself over you. And having those long term friendships and connections that fall off, that's a grieving process. They said that like breaking up, that's that's the same as grieving within a friendship. That's the same type of pain. Like, just because it's a friendship, just because it's platonic, it still hurts. It's still, you still going on without this person that you thought was always going to be there and be a part of your life. And then also, I feel like the divine shows us signs of, okay, this is how this person really is, and this is how they really care about you, or they feel about you. And it's up to you. Are you going to choose yourself, or are you going to choose them? So there's so many lessons in that. And if you pick the wrong, if you don't pick yourself, then you're just going to get another lesson. It's just going to be a different face.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So we have some questions. So I'm going to pull it up because I don't want us to forget where we were. But someone said, "How were you able to strengthen your boundaries and not feel guilty for standing up for yourself as being a people pleaser?"
Hmm. As time went on, it became easier, but in the beginning, it was I would feel my heart would still go out to them, like, darn it. Like, it could be something that's so small as somebody asking me to do something, but because I don't have, number one, I don't have the energy. Number two, I probably simply don't want to do it. And the old me would have just said yes because I wanted to keep the peace. But now, like, if I don't want to do something, I'm not doing it. And I'm not feeling bad about it at all. I'm so happy with choosing me. So to answer that, you just got to say no and be okay with it. So, like, and then the amazing part about it is you don't even have to explain your no. Like, people think, like, at first I was like, wait, I could say no and I don't have to explain it. Okay, that takes the pressure off.
No is a full sentence. I absolutely love that. How were you able to strengthen your boundaries? Another Something that I would recommend for strengthening your boundaries as well is checking in with yourself. So, why are you doing this thing? So I always say with a boundary, the boundary is not telling the person, yes, it's saying no and saying like this is where I'm at, but the
Mm,
boundary really happens when the person tries to cross it, right? So I feel like sometimes people are like, I'm putting boundaries, but then when the boundaries are crossed, they don't do anything about it. So it's like
mhm,
putting a fence and saying this is where I'm at and this is where you're at. But if someone now comes to the fence and they're trying to climb over, this is when you have to reinforce the boundaries. So boundaries is not something that we set once and we kind of like forget it.
mhm,
So how to strengthen your boundaries would be like repeating them. When you see people are not respecting them,
mhm,
double down on the boundaries. 100%, I would say, like doubling down on the boundaries will help you stand up for yourself. Like just respectfully repeating what you said again. Like, I said like I'm not available at this time or after this time. Please do not call me after this time. Whatever, you have to do it when the person is infringing, I would say,
mhm,
on your
mhm,
boundaries, and understanding that you're not a bad person because you put boundaries. To be honest, the people who wanted to be in your life and who respected you would respect your boundaries. So you're not a bad person for having boundaries. And I think that's important because when you're a people pleaser, you definitely feel bad for telling people no. You're like, I'm the selfish. I'm the worst person like
I
alive.
could have did it, or how can I do it?
So definitely checking in with yourself too and just asking yourself like why do you feel the need to do that? And is this like it's totally okay to help people, but again, like Keisha said, is it do you see that reciprocity? Right?
Yes.
Are you always helping someone who's never helping you? And
Mhm.
it's totally okay if you're a very helpful person and you're always giving. I have a lot of people around me like that. They give, but they just as long as you're with people who give back, it's totally okay. But if you find yourself on the end where you're giving and you're never getting back, or when it's time for people to help you, you're never finding, that's when you got to like evaluate and be like, okay, who needs the boundaries and who don't, because sometimes it's not everyone who needs the boundaries. Sometimes it's specific people who are draining our energy who needs it.
I love how you worded that, and I love how you mentioned like reinforcing the boundary. Because yes, just because you say it one time doesn't mean that then people not going to try you again.
Absolutely. Uh, okay, so we got some Libras in the building. Strong boundaries because I've grown to love myself. I put me first. I love to hear that.
Mhm.
I feel like this is what I'm going through right now, overcoming loneliness. It is hard. I won't lie. Totally an introvert. So this year I've really made it the goal to go out, join some memberships, be more social as much as possible, as much as I can handle without completely draining myself. But going to aligned places. So like this weekend I have like a dating, like a, not a dating, like a speed dating, but for friendships for spiritual girls. So like those type of things, like I put myself in aligned spaces. So if you're trying to overcome loneliness, I would say definitely try to find spaces with people that you already have things in common with. But yeah, it's definitely a hard period. What helped me was definitely the spiritual community that I met online, 100%.
Yes. Yes.
So Keisha, tell us, how has it been as a woman who, has cultivated so much self love, confidence, and is on a spiritual journey as well? How does that affect your current dating scene? Because the current dating scene right now, it's wild out here. That's I'm not really out here, but that's what I be hearing. That's what I'm seeing.
It's true.
So let us know how being a spiritual woman and being on this journey really affects, how you move through the dating scene.
Whew. I would say that there's definitely piss in the dating pool. I would also say, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I feel like that's the truth. Like that is not. There's no lies in there. There's piss in the dating pool, and it's super important. At It's super powerful in knowing who you are while dating. So for me, dating has been it's been challenging, especially since I know who I am, what I want, and if it doesn't if and I even made a list, right? So it's so easy to refer back to my list, right? So I have a list of the characteristics that I want, the qualities and attributes I want my divine partner to have. And whenever I'm dating someone and I read my list and they don't match my list, because I was firm in my list when I wrote it, right? This is me standing on business. This is what I'm looking for. If there's any detours or the person doesn't match the description of my list, not saying that we're gonna check all boxes too. Right? We're not about to be Chili. Remember Chili back in the day, her dating show. It doesn't have to. They don't have to check all the boxes, but those core values um, that I really desire in a mate, like how's your heart? How do you treat people? How do you make me feel? Um, is there any time that you make me feel that I'm not good enough? Like, do I feel safe with you? How do you play? Do you play on my insecurities? Like, those are very important questions. And dating whoever I choose to date, and being intentional with taking it to the next level and marriage, that's a very important decision. Like, you can screw your whole life over if you marry the wrong person. And I don't want to say that's a fear of mine, but I do not want to marry someone that whereas, like, we all don't want to, we don't go into a marriage and think that we're gonna end up in divorce, right? But I want to be super intentional about the person that I'm dating, that I actually know them. And I feel like so many of us, we date, and or we have sex, we fall in love, and then we get to know the person. And I know that order because I've done it that way. And that's not the right order. Like, you really have to know that person, decide if you even want to exchange sexual energy with them, because every time you sleep with someone, that's 7 years. 7 years of that spiritual attachment. 7 years. That's a long time. And as my journey has, grown, I'm very careful about that. Super careful about that, because you could be sleeping with the devil and you don't even know it. Like, this shit get deep. It gets super deep. And a lot of us just want to, a lot of us just chasing nuts. And that's sad. Like, people just out here busting nuts. That instant gratification. Like, I got busted nut, so I'm gonna just have sex with whoever, or just because I gotta get this out, because we haven't been taught to transmute this sexual energy. There's so much power and manifestation that comes from that sexual energy. You can transform the world with that sexual energy.
What would you say, what does like a healthy search for love look like now that you're on your healing journey, or that you've healed some of your past attachments? What does like a healthy search for love look like now for you?
Healthy search is knowing when to let someone go. I think that, like, because is of the essence, and because I value my time, filtering through the individuals who are serious about me, and knowing and recognizing that these people are serious. These men, these suitors are serious, and that they're courting me. Right? If we're gonna operate in our divine femininity, we will be courted, right? And it depends on what you define that courtship to look like, right? I know how I want to be treated. I know how I want to be felt. How I want my partner to interact with me, right? So I feel like knowing what that looks like for you is very important, so that anything that deviates from that, like I mentioned, you will recognize and you will know.
I think that's super important. What I like is that list that you talk about. Talk to me a little bit more about that list. Where did you get the idea? Because I do something similar. I actually recommended that to people in the past and clients in the past, and they've had success. So tell me about your list, how you came about it. If you want to like tell us like the top 3 things that are on top of there, both feel free. I'm
Okay.
just curious to hear more about that.
Yes. Well, my list actually came from when I was going to therapy. And because I got out of a really bad relationship, it made me question a lot of things and times that I let things slide with partners that I shouldn't let slide, or certain patterns that I've noticed within how certain men act, and it remains true, just a different face of how they interact with you. So the insecure men, Because I feel like there's so many different types of men. There's men who are insecure. There's men that they can't handle being in the shadows of a dominant or alpha female, or a woman operating her in her divine femininity. So my list was actually recommended by my therapist, and she explained to me, like, write down, so exactly what I said, like, write down what I want my divine partner to, what attributes I want him to have, those qualities, and what does that look like, and to embody that, and to see myself, envision myself in that space as operating as that woman. And some of the things on my list are, I want a man that is emotionally intelligent. Okay. Because to me, that's so, and an effective communicator. Like, those are things that are on my list. Having a man that makes me, that doesn't make me feel insecure. He knows how to communicate and does it so eloquently that I feel safe in his arms. I feel safe with his love. I feel like I feel like my heart would be safe in his hands. Like, those are the type of things on my list. So it's more so, it's also knowing what's on your list, but also knowing what that feels like. I think that's the powerful part, because until I feel that, and like dating, yeah, dating is interesting, right? And because it's getting faster for me to like play the process of elimination. I think that's the fun part. Like, you gotta go. You ain't shit. You a fraud. Get out my energy. So like I think, to me, as I elevate, that's the most exciting part. Because like before, I probably would have entertained it some more. Probably would have to see another sign. Like, God, show me another sign. Give me another sign. That one wasn't clear. I need another one. But now being able to, I feel like that's so powerful, knowing like, no, your time is up. And it's cool. I wish you well, but no, we can't be friends. Because I think that's another thing. Like, why so many men want to be friends after? Nah, you didn't treat me good. We could not be friends. And the old me probably would have entertained a friendship, right? Because the people pleaser. But no, nah. Divine feminine women don't, we know our worth. We know who we are. We know that we are operating in I am her energy. And you got to rise up to the occasion. You got to rise up to my vibration. You got to rise up to my frequency to even deal with me. Okay, sorry.
I'm enjoying it. No, I'm enjoying it. I was enjoying it. So thank you for letting us know what was on the list. I enjoyed that. I do very much believe in writing down qualities that you want in your partner as well. I highly recommend it. Especially like since this whole entire life is about, relationships with purpose and like even dating with purpose. And I feel like when you're ready to date with purpose, it's really important to know what you're looking for. Like you said, in the past, we would just like happen upon someone and then, oh, I like this person, or, whatever, have sex or whatever, and then decide whether or not we want a relationship. That is not really like dating with purpose. So once you've decided I want to date with purpose, I feel like the list idea is really, really good, and I really recommend it. I'll tell you guys my version of the list. I always say, like, write 10 things down and try to stay away from, and this is just, from my perspective, but I try to stay away from things that are like super physical or super surface level. Like, try to write down characteristics, traits, things that like are really make or break it. And I had a past friend did like literally did this, and he ended up dating someone who was very similar to his list like 3 months after. So it just really shows when you put your attention on put your intention and your attention on something, it really works. So I would say write about 10 things, characteristics, like, you know, like you were saying, effective communicator. I like people with like strong character, strong moral character, those
Mhm.
type of things. So you write those things down. And I always like to do this to people. I'm like, take two things off the list. And those two things is, if someone did come to you and they had everything on the list except those two things, would you still be able to date them? And the reason why I say take two things off is because I feel like you still need a little space for the universe to do its thing. So
Mhm.
sometimes, because some people could be like, you know, red hair, but it's like, what if the person has everything but they come with black hair? Like, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? Or,
Exactly.
so that's why I say like stay away too much from like physical attributes, because those things could change. We could always dye our hair. We could always like put on weight, lose weight, those type of things. But once you deal with character and you deal with traits, then it becomes, you know what you're looking for. And what I
Mhm.
love what you said is that when you're actually dating someone, you can look at that list. So if you said effective communicator or emotionally intelligent, and that person is playing with your feelings, you're like, that's not my guy. If
Mm.
that person's like, I don't really talk about how I feel, you know, men don't talk about, you're like,
Snip,
that's not
snip.
my guy. And
It's
it
easy.
just,
It's easy.
yeah, it just shows you, it's just like a reminder of the commitment that you made to yourself about
Yeah.
what you like you deserve. And then it's up to you to decide, you know, but I really like like the idea of having a list. I think it keeps you super focused. I think it really does help you manifest that person, that you're, am I glitching?
Yeah, you froze a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it on like my Wi-Fi connection maybe. But yeah, it definitely does help manifest that person within your life. So we had a question here I want to pull up, and on Instagram, if you guys have questions as well, let us know, put it in the chat. So now that you're elevated, can you tell whether you're dating someone you're in alignment with versus dating your trauma?
Mm, this is a hard. This is hard because you. It's one thing to know your triggers and identify them, but it's another thing to interact with people who trigger you, or there's an instance that happens between you two, and you're triggered, and walking through that those are two different things: identifying the trigger versus actually being triggered and healing in out of that space. um and another thing that comes to mind as I'm reading this is dating somebody in alignment. you know just like you wrote down your list, the divine knows your list, and the devil also knows your list. So those are that's three entities that know your list, right? And being able to, because it could shine like gold, it could look so pretty, it could glisten, he could glisten, he or she could glisten, right? And they could be a warlock, or they could be the devil. So that it this question's a little tricky to answer, only because there's so many elements that go into it. But and then the devil also knows what signs to send you so that it looks like you're in alignment, but you're not in a, that's not the person for you. But a key thing is, someone can only show their mask for but so long. And heavy on the intuition, being heavy on your intuition is so key, because you'll know if this person's in alignment with you based off that. As far as dating from your trauma, um, trauma bonds are so real, and I feel like in the early stages of dating someone, I feel like it could get really, really sticky if you put everything out on the table of everything that you've been through and all your trauma that you've endured. Only because you don't want the relationship to form based off a trauma bond. Like, oh, I had a narcissist ex-fiance. Oh, you had a narcissist wife. Oh, yeah. And then we talk about those experiences, and then we only form a bond because we get to talk and walk each other through those experiences and that healing. But we're not focused on the part of knowing each other, of loving each other outside of that. So I don't know if that made sense or if I answered the question directly, but I feel like there's so many elements that go into it, but heavy on the intuition, because when you know, and giving things time. I feel like time is you can like the representative, they show themselves like what 6 months after. That's, some people last longer than the 6 months. Some people could go a year. They could really like fool you and be pretend to be someone that they're not, especially on a spiritual level. So if when you're operating in divine femininity, you have to understand that there are men out here that will use excuse me, use certain keywords like we talked about, Sharice, use certain keywords to reel you in. Like they will talk about balancing of the chakras. They'll talk about they're operating out their divine masculine, and they know the balance of the divine feminine, and they know how to treat you and your goddess and rich rising and all that good stuff, right? Because they know they've been looking online, right? And I also feel like there is a fetish, even probably people won't admit this, there is a fetish with dating a woman that's operating in her divine femininity. Men love that. They love
Talk
it.
about it. Talk
They
about it.
suck it up because you shine so bright. Why wouldn't they be attracted to you? And you're at the forefront. Like you have your podcast. There's so many, you're in the limelight. You know how to love on people. You're talking about love. Oh my God.
You know what? I haven't before you brought it up. I didn't think about that, but now that you brought it up, you're like, there's a fetish to date a spiritual woman. Like now that you brought it up, I'm like, some bells are ringing because I never thought about it before. But you're making a lot of sense right now. Like, yeah, there very much might be a fetish, and it makes sense too because, like you said, you automatically think like these women might be more nurturing. You think that they, they're in tuned with themselves, and blah blah blah. So most definitely, now that you're bringing this up, I feel like I could. I feel
Yeah.
like I got fetished.
Yes. Oh,
I
she's
got
gonna.
fetishized. 100%. 100%. Um, but to answer, Jamie said you did answer the question. So I love that. And as you were talking, and with this question, something that came into my mind was the question: are we ever fully healed? Right? Are we
Mm-hmm.
ever really fully healed? So it's really nuanced because I personally feel that you can be dating someone more in alignment for you, but there's still going to be certain cycles that you could have in that relationship. It doesn't mean that it's a bad relationship. It's just where you are in your journey. So when you were here, you were accepting that. When you're here, you're accepting that, but you could also be higher. So
Yeah.
it's like, are we ever really fully healed is the question. I know we talked about it a little bit before we came on, so I'm gonna bring it up here.
Go ahead.
Um, about healing in relationships, because a lot of people feel like, you know, it makes sense, right? It's good advice. We hear it all the time. make sure you're good, make sure you're healed before you go into a relationship with someone else. Make sure this, make sure that. If you're hurt, don't go into a relationship with someone else. Absolutely, I do agree with that, especially if you're actively hurting. But there is this notion that you should not be in a relationship if you're not healed. Let me know what your thoughts about this are.
I think the purpose of relationships is for us to heal things within ourselves, and only relationships bring that out. However, I also think, excuse me, I also think that you do have to be healed in order to form a quality relationship. Because just think about it this way, right? Imagine a woman, she just got an abusive relationship and she's not healed, and she's dating a man that really loves her, but she doesn't recognize the love because it's not the toxic relationships or patterns that she's used to. And eventually he falls out of love with her because he's tired of dealing with her triggers and the parts of her that haven't healed, and she's not taking the actions to do that. She just thinks that I love you, you love me, we should still be together. So in those type of situations, I feel like how can, like, it's not balanced. The two people are not in alignment. Like he's healed, but she's not. That puts a strain on the relationship. And relationships have to be balanced in order for them to work. There has to be a fair commitment. Uh, um, there has to be intention behind it in order to build that foundation and to keep that foundation strong throughout the duration of the relationship, right? So I think that goes into it as well, like knowing that. I think I lost my thought, but I'm gonna stop there. I think I lost my thought.
No, but you were talking about how the relationships need to be balanced and we need to have similar levels of commitment and healing, or at least commitment. And I do agree with that. I feel like in a relationship you do need to have similar levels of commitment. And while it is ideal to go into a relationship healed, healing can occur in relationship. It depends on if both you and the other person are committed to your healing and to your betterment and to your improvement. So if you got into a relationship and you've been doing some inner work and you're doing yourself and you have attracted a better partner, but there's still problems in the relationship, it doesn't mean, oh, okay, I need to break up or I need to end this relationship because I haven't healed enough yet. Exactly like you said, some of the healing occurs in the relationship, because a relationship is such a mirror. I see a relationship as a mirror, and it's like sometimes we can feel like we're healed when we're single, when we're not healed as much. So I like to say, are you really healed or are you just not triggered? Because it can feel like you're healed, but the thing is that you're just not triggered. So I went through this in my own journey, but more with like friendships, where I kind of isolated a little bit, and then I was like, I'm good, I'm healed, I've meditated. But it's like, am I really, like, if you put me in a situation with people, if I'm getting triggered left and right, then I haven't healed yet. I'm just not triggered. So sometimes the things that will pull on your triggers in a relationship are there to still show you where you still have some work to do. As long as you and that other person are committed to growing together, to being the best versions of yourself to each other and for yourselves as well, I think that makes a beautiful relationship, and that healing can really truly occur in that relationship in a healthy way, and that both you guys will continue to elevate together. But if you're on a healing journey and you are taking accountability for your feelings, you're doing all of that, and they're not, or they don't care, or they're still, communicating and manipulating and giving you the cold shoulder and all of those things, then this is when I would evaluate like whether or not to continue the relationship or end the relationship. So I do believe that healing can occur in relationship. I think deep healing occurs in relationship, especially when you find someone who is on a similar level to you and they have that commitment. I think you said the perfect word. Do they have that commitment? Do you guys have both the commitment to do the work and to grow together and to provide a safe space for each other? Oh my
Mhm.
God, that can usher in really, really deep healing.
Absolutely. And then that's how you know, like, if your relationship withstands the test of time. Yes, for sure, Jemmy. New levels, new missions, new devils. I always say that. New level, higher heights, and bigger devils. um, I had a question. Oh yeah. So Charisse, how did you know that you have healed in love?
I feel like I know that I've made progress in my healing because one of the caliber of partner that I have right now, in terms of the level of intimacy, we have the level of compatibility and the level of commitment.
Mm.
Um, and then the level of safety. I feel like before I did not allow myself, well, I didn't even know that I could feel safe in a relationship, really. I just thought all relationships were just like turmoil a little bit, like ups and downs.
Yeah, after you've been through the ringer, yeah.
Right? Because especially, growing up, again, we talked about it, Caribbean, those type of things. And I definitely want to touch back because we touched on a couple of things last week I want to bring back. Is that, you just hear about these, relationships like that, up and down, this. Um, you hear just a lot of rhetoric in our community sometimes, like women just love to complain, and it's just so normal for women to just complain and nag, and then men are, it's just normal for them to kind of like ignore the complaining and the nagging, and so there's just like a lot of like avoidance and a lot of like unsecure attachments. I would like to call it. So I just grew up just feeling like, relationships are like that. Like you just fight if you need to fight and blah, blah, blah. And um, I feel like now I know that I made progress on my healing because certain patterns don't come up in my relationship. And the things that I work through in my relationship currently is just like more like, how can we become in deeper alignment?
Mhm.
How can I understand you more? How can you understand me more? Um, if we do have a disagreement, what's happening here? Why are we in disharmony? Not why like you're the problem or I'm the problem or I'm blaming you. Just like what's why are we not understanding each other? How can we understand each other? So having that level of like being able to communicate like that showed me that okay, I've definitely made progress in my healing. I'm not just like cold shouldering. I'm not just like I'm proactively trying to communicate, and I
Mhm.
not even trying to. I'm proactively communicating in my relationship, and the same is happening on the other end. So and yet there's still healing to be done, but it's definitely, I felt like I said, a different type of feeling, a different type of safety to just be yourself, to be seen, to not hide. I know we talked about it last week where I was saying like, sometimes I used to feel in the past that I needed to become the type of person that the other person wanted to be with, and I don't have to do that. I will never do that. Like I'm holding myself to this standard to never ever do that again. Never ever change for another person. Always change and evolve because it's the natural thing to do. It's because it's the next level for me. It's because it'll bring more harmony and commitment, but not because I just want the other person to like me more. You know what I mean? So being able to be yourself as well and be fully yourself and not be ashamed of who you are definitely showed me that I've done the work. Like the work is working. It's doing its thing.
Yes, yes. And I love that you noticed the progression and cultivated your relationship and define your relationship for what works for you and your partner. I think that's awesome. Because a lot of people, I think once that conflict comes in, that's when you really find out who a person is. Like how are and that's part of the list too. How do you effectively resolve conflict? That's a major thing because if you get angry, if you get uncontrollable, like those things matter, especially at the heat of a debate or especially love involved, people get really passionate.
Hmm.
So knowing who you're in love with, especially when they're at their lowest points, I think that matters too.
And this is for Instagram. There was a question earlier, and I kind of skipped through it. But for the 10 list thing, for the 10 items, the reason I said that you can remove two, um, it's not for you to it's not for you to settle. It's just a practice to see which two things you could live without, and it's also just to reiterate the fact that no one's perfect. And sometimes when we have a list, we could be like, well, they don't have everything on my list, but it's like,
Mhm.
no, no one's perfect as well. So just kind of like that is why I said you can like put like a asterisk next to two, and those are like the two least important things for you. It's not for you to settle. It's just like this understanding that no one's perfect, and also the universe and God knows what we need more than what we need. So that is why. So that was just a question I wanted to tap back into that. So let's talk about. So last week we talked about your relationship with your parents. We're both Caribbean, and we were talking about. I actually had a comment where someone was saying that it was really good to see someone Caribbean who looks like us, etc., similar culture, who has had a good relationship with their parents for at least a good part of their lives, or whose parents poured into them. I know, especially from the side of your mom. You talked a lot last week about how your mom really poured love into you and she poured attention and all of that into you. How do you feel like that like that impacted your relationships when you went out into the world and created relationships with other people?
I think that whew, my mom prepared me for a lot. My mom was a Gemini sun, so she was the life of the party, and she experienced a lot of conflict with women and envy, jealousy, and because because she knows her daughter, she also prepared had those conversations, and that's why it was very important for her to let me know that the woman that I may be around, that could be a very dangerous thing to be around women that really don't give a fuck about you or don't have good intent or will hurt you intentionally. And I had this one friendship, childhood friendship, and as time went on, my mom told me that wasn't my friend. As time went on, this woman, this at the time, this girl really hurt me, and that relationship trickled into so many of my friendships where I hurt other people, or instead of turning the other cheek in such certain situations, because I'm so close. I feel like it's because I'm so close to Scorpio and because I was unevolved, that okay, you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you 2 times as much. Like you gonna feel this wrath. And that's toxic. That's toxic. But it was the sad, because if we're gonna talk about the love and the light, we also gotta talk about the deep rooted stuff as well. That dark energy too. Like, oh yeah, you thought this was a game. You thought you could You thought you could have sex with a man that I liked and thought that I wasn't gonna do any yeah. And thought I wasn't gonna do anything? Or thought I wasn't gonna say anything? Or you thought that was okay and you're not gonna feel nothing? Okay, I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna show you what's up. So like going understanding that, and then also understanding that I was operating out of hurt in certain situations or certain friendships, and then realizing that I didn't want to hurt people anymore. That was a big major thing for me. Like I'm hurt, I'm hurting other people because I'm hurt or because they hurt me, or because we didn't talk it out, or because there's some secret resentment. And as I stepped into my power, now I could recognize when a woman is envious of me. I could see that. I could see it a mile away, and staying away from that energy, or even smiling at her because I know you hate my fucking guts, but I'm just gonna smile anyway. Like I think a fair use of that energy matters, and um, my mother's love and guidance played a huge role in identifying what women thought that which girls thought that they could play with me and which girls thought they couldn't play with me, and then me reacting, like me knowing that it's okay to react. Because my mom was a Gemini moon, she stood on business. I could never come home and tell my mom that somebody beat me up. She told me from the door, she told me at an early age, she said, if I find out that somebody put their hands on you and you ain't hit them back, you gonna get hurt. I'm like, what? Like, I'm gonna get, okay, say less. And I was even a fighter, right? I wasn't a fighter growing up. Um, but there was so many different, and then not for nothing, like my mom, my mom was such a like a OG. She didn't play that, so she talked back. And I noticed as I got older, I would talk back too. Like I picked up certain qualities about her. So like sometimes I'm okay with not saying anything, but then like if I'm somewhere and a female bumps me, it's like, bitch, you didn't see me. Like it's like I feel like it's just it's a balance, and I'm happy I have that balance.
It's funny too that you said that, because I know you're a Gemini moon, right?
Yes.
So totally makes sense. Like your mom being Gemini sun and then just having this huge impact on you and your mentality. How did how did her pouring into you as well help you with relationships, like even romantic ones?
Mm. My mom prepared me for that too, right? I feel like my mom was a hot girl. Like she knew exactly. She knew to put me onto game. My father, he was that guy. So I had two popular or like confident individuals pouring into me. And the way that my mom prepared me was she always told me how beautiful I was. Like even when I didn't believe her. Like growing up, I'm like, Mommy, you're saying that because I'm your daughter. Thanks. Um, but even her like telling me that, and being comfortable enough to go to my mom and saying like, Mommy, this boy likes me, da da da, da, and telling her this scoop, because I could never, at the time I felt like I could never go to my father because he was strict, and I'm not supposed to be dating, or I'm not supposed to be interested in boys, and girl picnic not supposed to do this because they're fast, and if I do this I might end up pregnant, and blah blah blah, and you know the whole all them damn all them damn rules at such a young age when you just trying to have some fun. Um, my my mom, she just had the I was just she provided a safe space for me to not hide what I was doing, and not for nothing also encouraging. I remember I wanted to I was in college. My father still holds on to this day. I lied about being in another state, and I forgot, I think he looked at my credit card statement, something he looked at, he found I was in New Orleans. Also now he says, yeah, when you lied. And my mom, she took part in the lie. So because she was my writer. But I couldn't hold certain conversations with my father because I would get in trouble, and he was strict, and I just wanted to have fun.
I like everything you're saying about, especially your dad, because I know Jamaican, right? You're just saying like,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
can't go outside. Like that's just Caribbean life. Like, it's double standards for the boys versus the girls. Absolutely. So I agree with you with that. And it's just confusing as well. And also there's just a lot of rules, but not knowing no explanations.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So
Was it the same? Was it the same for you?
absolutely. So I grew up in the Caribbean. I came to Canada when I was like 13, 14.
Hmm.
So very much like you will get a lot of you can't do this, you can't wear this. She's fast. Like I didn't personally get that because like I was a good girl. Um
Wait, were you
that's the
really
whole
good? Were you really good, or you just knew how to beat the system?
no, I was a good girl. I was a good I was a good girl at home. Outside was a different story, but I was pretty much a good girl for most of the part. Like that's part of my journey, having to reclaim so much about myself because I repressed a lot about myself just to like
Mhm.
fit into certain molds. But I was very much the kid that would just be at home like reading, watching TV, like not really outside like that. But when I was outside, I was outside.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, and growing up in the Caribbean too, there's just also a lot of shame around being a girl. So like you said, like we can't do certain things because the chance of us getting pregnant and we can't wear. So there's just a lot of shame around that. So I feel like it depends. I'm really truly happy to see that you've had a great relationship with your mom and that she was able to pour into you, and even your dad in his own way having his confidence pouring into you, because a lot of people, a lot of our secure attachments, a lot of our attachments come from our first relationships. It comes from our
Mhm.
relationships with our parents and, people who are really close to us and siblings and our caregivers. And it's sad when, the first relationships you've had in your life were not really stable. So, because then that creates a precedent for the other relationships in your life sometimes. And then you think that all relationships are unstable, or you think that it's natural for relationships to be something when it's not. It's just what you've always experienced. So it's good to hear another experience, or experience of someone who's had maybe more secure relationships growing up, because I know a lot of people can relate here that sometimes it's like you get into relationships with people and it's like over time you realize, oh, that was actually not, I shouldn't have been accepting this, or I should, but you don't know better sometimes when you're in that, because you've always lived in a kind of like either unstable or just like sometimes highly critical, or just even a place, we talked about that last week as well, where like you've never heard the words like I love you, or you've never received that affection. So it's like when you get in relationships, sometimes it's hard for you to now see the problems in the relationship, especially if it looks like what you've grown up with.
And I could totally relate. So although, because let's be clear, right? I also thought about this as well. Although I grew up with both my parents, it sounds like I had the perfect childhood.
No,
I,
absolutely.
I didn't. Right? I feel like you could still grow up with both your parents, and there still be lacks, or they can still be issues that you have. So like my father worked two jobs, my mom worked two jobs. So the primary person that was parent that was around all the time was my mom. And because of that, my father, his love language is to buy me things, right? I wanted that quality time, but he had to make sacrifices to pay the bills and be the provider, right? That as I got older and dissecting this, I'm like, wait. So I started to, as I got older, I started to attract men that would buy me things. And I'm thinking, oh, they like me, they love me because they're buying me things. It's the same love language as my father, so they have to love me. But they were buying me things and still cheating on me, or they were buying me things and playing on my insecurities, or they were buying me things and they can control me, or they were buying me things and it was manipulation. So those are the things that, although it sounds really really good, there were some things that I still didn't get, that also translated into my dating experience. this again, my dating experiences. And even something as small as because if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it. My father is very 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 raw and strict, and doesn't bite his tongue for nothing. So there were certain times that he would talk to me, and because again, I'm a Libra and we always stand on respect. That's one thing, like we're always big and firm on respect. You're going to respect me, like period. And me and my father had to go through those, that number one, I'm growing up, I'm a female, I'm a little girl in his eyes, but I'm always going to be his little girl. But now I'm a woman, but all he sees me as his little girl, and I have to, like, we have to navigate through that now, because I'm not a little girl anymore, I'm a grown ass woman. So now you can't talk to me the same way you was talking to me as a little girl, and I couldn't say anything, because if you talk back to your parents, you're disrespectful. They could say whatever they could say whatever they want to say. But if you say something back to your parents, oh, you disrespectful. If I was your age, I would never say that.
You cut them out. You just said like
You
one
wicked.
sentence. Yeah, you said one sentence. They're gonna call the whole neighborhood. If you hear what she told me.
You wicked. Like, damn, how am I wicked? Like, and then you start questioning yourself. So, like, also teaching my father how to treat me and how to love me, because he thought, I don't know what he thought, right? But apparently there was some type of conflict where I thought the way that he was loving me didn't translate to love to me. And I was picking, and then recognizing that just because I'm gonna pick up men that exhibit these qualities of my father, whether they're good or bad, and I have to decipher whether I want to be around that, and can I decipher if that's good, like, because that's all I know, because that's the man that has raised me. He has shown or exemplified this love language. So how do I know that this is not acceptable when somebody else treats me this way and they're not my father? So I think those were very challenging times to navigate through, even though I came from a two-parent household. Like, there's still, it sounds good, but I also want to speak on that part that people think that just because you grew up a certain way or it looks good on paper, there weren't challenges or struggles or learning how to cultivate relationships with your parents, healthy relationships with your parents.
I'm happy that you touched on that and that you took the time to clarify that. Me just knowing that knowing that your dad is Jamaican, I'm like, I know your dad was not perfect, but not because anyone is bad, but also just because within our culture there just is so much tradition that is rooted in trauma. So it's
Yeah.
like it's not even the person. It's just if you literally just regurgitate everything that you were told in our culture, some of things will be based in trauma. So
Hmm.
it'll just create an effect. So
Hmm.
I'm glad that you clarified that and that you talked about like having to build the relationship with your parents for sure. And it is true. I love the reflection you made about just like having men with a similar love language to your dad and like receiving love with gifts, but then not, you wanted quality time, and then also they were also doing things that didn't match their actions. So I think that is a really good, really interesting reflection that you did. Hold on, let me
Thank you.
just see the, okay, perfect. So we're gonna close up in about 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, any insights, any questions on dating with purpose, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm writing while I'm trying to do this, so I have a lot of typos up here. But dating with purpose, finding your tribe, healing with relationships, let us know. So I would ask you, what is high value to you? So we're ending up, because a lot of people, we're having a lot of conversation around high value man, high value woman, how to date high value, how to be high value. In your perspective, what is high value?
In my perspective, high value is the value you place on that, like those high standards that you want in that person. And I'm gonna give an example if I didn't articulate that correctly.
And also,
High
should
value.
we,
Go
like,
ahead.
is it really important to be like seeking a high value
Mm,
man or woman?
thank you. High value to me is 6 foot and up, right? It's the charismatic man with the good job. He makes 6 figures and up. He drives a really nice car. He may have kids, he may not have kids. Has a really good job. All the qualities that all the women want in this world. that is that is a high quality man, right? And as far as the high quality woman, is the opposite of that. All the men want, right? I don't know if we're gonna put BBLs in there. I don't know how the body type looks, but it's the high value woman. And as far as should one be looking for that high value, I believe we again, having our list, right, and our list being flexible and taking two things off our list because people aren't perfect, like you mentioned. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, D Divine. But also having the knowing that this person is high if this person is high value, they're in high demand. And if a person's in high demand, that means they have so many people looking at them. They have so many suitors. They have people that are very interested in them, right? So it's a lot of people competition. That means these people get what they want. Um there is a they may be faithful, they may not be faithful, right? So high value is someone, and also someone that has money, right? So whether let's talk about the man aspect. So this man can provide, this man can date multiple women because he has the bandwidth to do so, right? Do you want that type of person? Because with that image comes other things. Not saying all of them act like that, not saying all of them are cheaters, but it's something to keep in mind. And I remember one of my really good friends, he said all women want a rich man. And I'm like, yeah, they do. They want a provider. He was like, but you also got to know what that comes with. And can you handle that? And if this man checks all the boxes financially, if he's cheating on you and misusing you and not loving you the way that you deserve to be loved, is that okay? Because you have everything else. He checks off all the other boxes, but he can't love you correctly. To me, that's my definition of what high value, somebody in high demand. What's your definition?
I'm interested to hear the audience. I'm interested to hear who's here. Shout out to y'all on Instagram. Why are people asking us on Instagram if we're single? Someone said, "Where are y'all located? Are you single?" Like, sir,
Wait.
go with the program. Go look at the beginning of the episode. But I'm interested to hear, for those of y'all who are looking, what is a high value man or woman to you? Please put it down in the chat. I love to pull out some of them in the screen, and just like in your own words and your own perspective, what it means to you. So
I'm interested
when
too.
it comes, what did you say? Sorry.
No, I said I'm interested too.
So when it comes to a high value man or woman, I feel like there is what you described, which is like what is on TikTok right now and what like society deems. So like you said, someone who's highly in demand. I do not believe someone who is highly in demand means that they're a high quality person. I feel like they're just in demand based on the thing they have, how they look, their connection, those things. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good person. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're a higher quality person. It doesn't mean that they've done the work. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean much because to me, what if your parents were rich and you were just born rich, but you've never done any work on yourself? You don't actually care, like you're actually not that great of a person. Are you high value, or were you just born with money? You know what I mean? So I do believe that the whole conversation about what is a high value man and high value woman is a little bit pointless, to be really honest. That's what I feel. But also, I feel like we should not confuse what people have with who they are. And a lot of this conversation is centered around what people have, and a woman is high value when she's under 25, and it's like none of these things tell you about the caliber of person that you're dealing with, about their character, about those things. Like you said, when someone is in a fight or when things are not going well, you get to really see who a person really is. So one thing I will definitely say is your list of things that you value in a partner. If you meet someone who has like all of this shit on that list, to me they're high value because they're high in your values, like the shit that you value. They're high value to you. Because where one person may value height, for example, another person may not value that. That may not be important to them. So I feel like if you have someone who has the characteristics and traits, and like they're a person, they do what they say, they mean what they say, they follow up, they are honest with you. um I know everybody wants a rich man, or like Drake says, rich baby daddy. But there's a difference between a rich guy and a generous guy, and it's really important to make that distinction as well, because someone could have a lot of money and not want to spend it on you, or not include you in money or in life or in purchases or whatever. But a generous person will always include you, no matter their bracket, right? So I think that is also another important distinction, because you might end up being with the person that has a lot, but they're not sharing it with you at all. So like that's why I said it's about the traits, right? Like generosity, right? So when that person is high, they'll share it with you the same way they're sharing it with you now. Or if they're already high, they're willing to share it with you. So when it comes to and I feel, again, the most valuable people to for me are people who know themselves, know their gifts, know their talents, people who have ambition, people who are working towards a cause. For me, those things are highly valuable. So I feel like if what you value, you not base whether that person it's what you value. So if what you value will deem whether your person is high value in your eyes or not. And you don't have to go with society's version of high value, is what I'm saying. So let me see what we have in the chat. Um, so Chosen 111 said, high value for me is respectable, reliable, and responsible. Those are a foundation, and then I can build off of that. But tall and nice teeth is a must, because I'm 5'8". I love that. Jamie says, for me, I feel like someone who operates out of love and shows consistency, someone who isn't afraid to be themselves, speak their truth, plus loyal. I love that. We didn't touch on loyalty, but loyalty is extremely high value, right? So I like to think about, especially when we're at, like, everyone here, like mostly in the spiritual community, like, think about the things that are rare. We tend to think about money only, but think about the qualities that be rare to find in people in this day and age, to be really honest. Like a real person, someone who is loyal, someone who is willing to someone who wants the best for you, who wants to see you grow, who holds you to your highest self. Like, those are things that in this day and age sometimes it could, and you can unmute, babe, if you have anything to say. Those are sometimes things that are hard to find. So I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit controversial with that, but I feel like those qualities are more valuable than, like, if the person has a nice car or whatever. Not that I'm not material. I'm still very much a material girl. But I'm just saying, like, it has to come with other qualities.
Yes,
If not, I couldn't see myself, like, lasting very long, like, in a really, like, being devoted to that, because then I'm just devoted to money. And if it's I'm devoted to money, I just prefer to, like, get it on my own.
yes. And that definition I gave of high value, that was societal's definition of high value for sure.
Hmm.
Like I feel like who even came up with that term? Because
Yeah.
we wasn't calling people back in the day, oh yeah, this is a high value woman right here. This is a high value man. Like we wasn't using those terms. Like who came up with that? I feel like somebody money hungry came up with that term.
For real. And, like, because people are just so obsessed with those terms right now, that it's just, that's why I wanted to clarify it. And it's good that you gave the societal version of it, because yes, that is what people say is high value. The woman needs to be submissive and under 25 years old and have, like, zero bodies or one, and that's high value. Like, it's totally perfect that you gave, like, what we see out there, because truly a lot of people are being indoctrinated into believing that that is high value because you do certain things or you wear certain things or you have certain statuses. But I feel like if you have these things and you're a horrible person, you're not high value to you're not high value.
We have some more comments.
Self-worth, second house and balance. A lot of people think that the second house is all about money, etc., but the second house has to do with a lot of self-worth. If you know what means, if you know what means what to you, you can set boundaries there. Absolutely. And expectations. I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with that with the second house. That's why I'm like, I feel like a high value person is what you value. Like, if you value certain things and you have someone in front of you, there will be high value to you. Because, like, same me, if I value loyalty above everything,
Mhm.
the man that is loyal and generous and given and all of that is going to be, in my eyes, more valuable and more attractive than the guy who does not have these things, no matter what he has. So I absolutely agree with you. Jeannie, thank you for being here, girl. Shout out to you. I didn't see you in the crowd before. Thank you for being here. Okay, so we have a couple minutes, y'all, a couple minutes. So let's wrap up. Put any questions or insights in the chat. I would ask you, Keisha, what advice would you give? I'll ask you two last questions. One of them will be, what advice would you give to young women or those struggling to find a divine counterpart currently?
I would say look within. Study yourself, love yourself, know yourself, because that makes it so much easier to attract someone that's in alignment with you or your divine partner, and not settling along the way of finding that divine partner. Because I think we go through so many tests and trials and tribulations as we're dating, and like avoiding the people in wolves in sheep's clothing, and the frauds, and going through those hurdles, that in that time dating gets challenging, and you might slip and get involved with someone that is vibrating low, right? You might make mistakes, and that's okay. It's all about recentering yourself in those times too, reevaluating what your boundaries and your standards are, and just getting sharper as time goes on of who gets to exchange energy with you. The better you know yourself, it's harder for people to play with you, because you have to believe that to your core. Like, you can't, no one's gonna treat me this way. If he's like inconsistency should be a turn off. That's where I'm at. You inconsistent? Oh, that's corny. Oh, you think you could go 2 days without talking to me? Oh, that's you can't shake. I'm not into that. Like, you gotta talk to me every day. I want somebody that doesn't play about me. I want somebody that shows me love and is not afraid to show affection and show different forms of intimacy with me and hold space for that. Like, until I see that, I haven't seen it yet. Until I see that, I'm not going to settle. So I feel like young ladies and goddesses and queens, that as long as we stand firm in our boundaries, you'll know when you come across that divine partner. But in that dating game, it's the process of elimination, period. May the best man win. Period.
What's your vetting? I have one more question, but this is like a side question. But what's your vetting system like? Your vetting process?
Because I'm so big on communication. If there's a lack of communication, it just it's not gonna work. Because I don't want to be, and I'm an overthinker. I don't want to be sitting in my energy just thinking about what you doing, who you with. Like, that, to me, that's not good energy. In the beginning, I shouldn't feel uneasy when I'm dating you. And so the vetting process is an energy check. My personal energy check is my energy. And as time is going on, I'm realizing that this is very important. So, like, how is my energy around you? How do you make me feel? Am I okay? Am I calm? Do I have peace? When you tell me something, how does it resonate with me? How does my mind and my heart, how is that balanced out? And I'm big on consistency. Consistency is a turn on. Like, that's so sexy. And if you're not consistent, you get cut. If you just text me all day, I don't. I'll tell you what I like, and we can find a middle ground. Like, okay, you may not want to be on FaceTime, but are you willing to be on FaceTime sometimes? Do we have to only do it your way? Um, and how do I feel around you in person? How do you act? Do you hold the door open for me? Like, there's certain things I'm looking at because that's how my father treats me. That's how people treat me. That's how my male friends treat. If my male friends put me at a high level, I can't just date no regular person. You can't just treat me however, and I just be like, oh, okay, he's trying. I don't want a person that's trying. So I think when we have those certain expectations, we know what our expectations are, and we stand on those. Then that vetting process is very easy. And again, may the best man win. I'm looking for the MVP, baby.
I love that. I love that. And I agree with you on so many points. Like, honestly, this conversation could go on for
Yeah.
so much longer. Um, but I absolutely agree with you. Like, inconsistency is so unattractive.
Mhm.
And even though I'm very much not in the game anymore, but when it comes to vetting, I absolutely agree with you when you're just like energy. energy does not lie. If you feel unsafe, if you feel weird, if you feel like someone is like setting you up or playing with your emotions or playing
Mhm.
mind games,
Mhm.
trust your intuition. If you told them something in confidence about yourself, insecurity or something like that, and you see them using it against you, ding ding ding. If you
Run.
see um right, if you if that person's trying to bring you down, like I think like sometimes in the beginning we miss these little subtle cues, but it's like if you're feeling good about yourself and you show up, you're looking good, and they're like saying little weird comments to bring you down or just like
Why are you so
pay attention.
happy?
Yeah, like pay attention to these things, because like I feel like those things are important. Like energy never lies.
Yeah.
Energy never lies. And if you're with someone, like a big thing was like the nonchalant guy, right? Where girls used to just be so big into like the guy who's like like nonchalant.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'm like, no, like you literally need to be low key obsessed with me.
Yes. Yes.
Because anything under that, I feel like my brain doesn't register it like you
You
like
don't like
me. Like
me.
no, because for me, which is possibly a little bit our Leo energy, because we're like, if you don't like love bomb us a little bit, but no, what I mean, what I really mean is that for me, vetting is like I barely ask people, like I don't give a fuck about your favorite color or any of that shit. Like in the beginning, I'm asking you questions. Obviously, I'm asking it in a way where I'm curious to get to know you, but I'm checking for our compatibility. I'm checking for your mindset right away. Like I want to know what you're doing, where you're going, what you see for yourself. Like
Mhm.
I'm so dead ass about things. Like I'm going to get into your mentality because
Mhm.
I'm also a little bit
Fabio.
sapiosexual.
Mhm.
So I like that. I like to see where your mind's at. And I'm also my vetting process is a little bit more subtle because I'll check for your character. I do not care what you say. I truly believe that like within the first month, do not listen to anything that a guy says. That's what
Mhm.
unless it's those little red flags like I was talking about. But I just look for character. I look for character and I look for do you do what you say you're gonna do?
Yes. Yes.
Do you
Absolutely.
follow through? Do you follow through?
Are you
If you say what,
reliable?
are you freaking reliable? Do you do what you say you're going to do? I look at your character. How are you treating people? How are you treating the waiter? How are you treating this? How do you
How you
act when
treat your
something
mom?
exactly? How do you act when something doesn't go right? Are you constantly ignoring phone calls? Are you like I look at these things. That's like I look at the character of the person. I feel like once you vet for character and not like what they're telling you have a better like gauge of like who that person is or who they may truly be. And like you said earlier, someone can only wear a mask for so long. And if you look for character, there's instances where the character is going to come out where it won't be a mask. Like if it's someone who is like whatever, like their order is wrong, they'll like make a snappy comment at the waitress or something like that. That's character. You can't.
Mhm.
It's hard to hide that shit. Like if it's a small moment, but for me, it's like if you treat someone like that, like you could possibly treat me like that. So
Yeah.
things like that I'm also like a huge Scorpio stellium, so my mechanics are a little bit more subtle. They're more I'm like psychoanalyzing you when as we're getting to know each other,
Mhm.
but yeah, I like character is so big for me. I look at the type of person you are and I look at your mentality and I look at your values and just like how you hold yourself. And for
Yes.
me, like when I've dated men, one of the biggest things that I told them to is, do they have a code? Do you have something that you follow? Do you have something that you not submit to, but like a code? Like do you have a way of being? And for every person can be different. Some people can be god, religion. Some people is just a way they hold themselves. And I find that really attractive. Like I've dated people, they're like, I don't move like that. You know, I don't do that. Or you could act like that. I don't do that. Like I don't act like that. Or you want to do me like this? It's all good. I'm gonna remove myself from the situation. Like they have like a care, like they have a code that they move by. I
Mhm.
find that extremely attractive. So those are things for me that I'm like, that's attractive. Like, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I like to see those things. But reiterating again, for you guys, it could also be something different, but you need to know yourself and know what you're looking for and know how you're going to evaluate your person. And like I said, definitely look for those traits. Look for the little list you wrote. Look for it in their character, not in what they're telling you, not in not in what they're telling you. Look for it
I'll tell you
in,
all
are
day.
they, yeah, are they showing you those things, and
Mhm.
never tell them what's on your list.
Nope.
Please, for the life
Mhm.
of you, never do not answer the question what you're looking for in a man. Please do not answer that question.
Yeah, because that's a straight giveaway. Like, oh, you just gave him the keys to the kingdom. Now he's just gonna act like your list, and
Yeah,
it's gonna be harder for you to identify the red flags.
yeah,
We have so
absolutely.
many we have so many comments.
Okay.
We're still
Oh,
rocking
okay.
out
I
with
didn't even.
it.
I was like in the zone. I was just looking at you, and your beautiful face.
Oh,
Okay.
you glowing. I'm looking at you too.
Someone said, Gem, okay, I feel the same way. I don't expect you to text me every second, but give me the reassurance and communication. Don't give me room to overthink. Absolutely. Reassurance is big. Like we both said, I think we both connected on that. Like, are you reliable? Are you consistent? Are you applying pressure? I
Yeah,
do not know you like me if you are not applying pressure. I do not know what to tell y'all.
because the men be sweating me, man. So
I don't know. I'm like, you text me this week and then next week, you don't like me. You don't like me. You text me once this week, once next week, once a week after. You don't like me.
you
I don't know
playing.
what to tell you.
Yeah. And you got another woman. Get away from me.
but I'll but like someone's clearly taking your time. Something else is
Mhm.
clearly more important. And that's okay. That's totally okay. It's just not me.
Exactly.
Shout out to Des. Thank you for being here.
He does.
D Divine, this is great. Someone from the UK messaged me on IG and spoke for the first time the other day. And I'm taking my time to see how this person makes me feel. They're a Gemini, and so far I feel objectified.
Yeah,
Wait,
identified. Huh?
okay, heard. You feel heard, but not really seen. That's very
Um,
interesting. Let us know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on,
mhm.
and let us know their signs if you want to like put that in the chat. But curious to know why you feel heard but not really seen. Is it also, well, is the online, is it because it's like online based? Is that part of the reason? Let us know how that's going.
Via like long distance.
Yeah. Listen to the human design. It helps you understand your intuition and how to work with it. See the red flags, listen to the red flags. I love that. We talked about that last week, like all the human design and the astrology. But I do agree, if you know your design in human design, if you know your strategy, it can definitely help you listen to your intuition. And with someone, I feel like I did get caught up with that in the past, where I dated someone who was really good on paper, but
Me too.
like I did not have that, and I'm a generator. So I literally need to have a full fucking body yes to you or to anything. Like even when we're like doing this live, I just wanted to do, I was like, yes. I don't even know what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Like when I met you, I was like, I don't even care. I just wanna, like, I have a yes to you. I have a pull. So I've been learning to like go with that.
Mhm.
Um and then we just go, like we just, make it up as we go. But I've dated someone in the past that's literally like perfect, but I didn't have that like full body yes to them. Like my sacral was not fully engaged in that relationship, and it was weird to me. So I do believe that, yes, like sometimes you date your type, but then they're not. they're not great. And then you just have like someone who you just meet who is just maybe not even your type, or just you weren't even checking for them, or just randomly, and you feel that you feel your intuition just feels there, it feels safe, it feels good. So as women, I think we should definitely tap into our intuition in our relationships. Sometimes someone can look good or on paper, but they're also just not the person for us.
That intuition is crazy. I remember a man cheated on me, one of my partners, and I felt him. I felt him having sex in that moment. That's how strong a woman's intuition is. And that has never happened to me before, but I felt it. I felt disgusted. I couldn't, like, just imagine trying to sleep and you like, nah.
Mm.
Oh, hell no. So,
I think we always know, but we just push it away because we don't have reasoning and logic for intuition. But it could also be just something as a shift in energy, like a simple
mhm.
shift in energy. Your man's like weird, and you know he's
Yes.
weird. You know he's being weird. You know something's
You
off,
know
and
your man, because you know your man.
exactly, you're energetically in tune with him. You're energetically entwined with him, and he's trying to
7
convince you.
years.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to convince you, no, everything's good. And you just know. And that's happened to me in the past before, where people have sworn up and down, no, it's nothing. No, I don't even know this person.
And you
Just
looking
to
at him
break
like,
up, just to break up. And like a couple of weeks later, you see them going out. You're like, you swore up and down you didn't know that person. So I introduced you to that person when I showed you two of them on the phone, right?
exactly. Exactly.
Oh.
Generator, psychotherapy. I stay not listening to my initial hunch, and then I make the wrong move and f up. Literally, I've tested it at the grocery store.
I love to hear some of these stories. Like I've just been getting into more my human design lately, but so far it's been very, very interesting. Okay, so they're a Gemini, you're a Leo. The online aspect is challenging. Communication and feeling someone out is important for me. We spoke once so far, message for a week so far. I need more phone time.
Have you
Most definitely.
expressed? Sorry,
Go
boo. I
ahead.
didn't cut you off. No, I wanted to know if D expressed that, because it's okay to express what your wants, right? Have you expressed that? I'm curious to know.
As we
Can
wait for
you?
that, as we wait for that answer, I'll ask you the last question. We're gonna head out, but this was such a great conversation. Like I want to stay on longer, but
Yes.
let's respect our time.
Yeah.
um, so what advice you would have for someone to maintain their self-love and confidence while searching for a meaningful relationship? I think it's even like that would be two parts because which one's more important? I would say, since we're talking about dating, I'll ask that, because I was gonna say sometimes we have trouble like maintaining our self-love and confidence while we're in a relationship. Like you get into a relationship and sometimes your confidence can go down or you stop taking care of yourself. But
Hmm.
I would ask you, how what advice you would give for those here who are currently wanting to attract a divine counterpart, and they're wanting to, attract someone who is on their level of, like, self-growth and healing. And what advice do you have for them to maintain their like self-love and self-esteem and confidence while searching for that in this current like atmosphere that we're in when it comes to dating? Like, you know what I mean, like the swiping and talking for 1 week and then being ghosted and like all of those things, especially as like spiritually and like highly sensitive women as well. Any advice?
Yes. Self care. I would say self care would be its major when you're dating, and not losing sight of that self care. So knowing when to rest, knowing when to get off that app and stop swiping. Left is when you don't like them, right? Well, I think so. I think swipe right if you like. Yeah, I think swipe left. Um, and giving, like, setting time frames. Like, I personally don't like the dating apps, but I've made some really good friendships. Like, women will reach out to me on the dating apps, and like you can match as friends. So I'll have some conversations on there, and that That's what I've been mainly using the app for. But as far as back when I was actively using the app, like having time frames, so 30 minutes only on the app a day, or an hour, that's all that they get, and standing firm with those boundaries, because you could keep swiping and then that could get discouraging, and then you get tired, and then you're like, damn, I'm start losing hope. You're like, start losing hope. And that's no way to feel while you're dating. I would also say, there's a lot. Dating yourself, taking yourself on dates, like, and we can also talk about self pleasure, right? I said that don't go out, be out here having sex, but you can still like give yourself pleasure, and knowing what that looks like, and envisioning when that time comes for you to pop it on a handstand. Whatever that looks like for you, I think that's important too, because in order for you to truly love yourself, you got to know what makes you feel good, how someone's gonna love you, and what that feels like. How can they give you pleasure and you be satisfied in that pleasure? Those things matter. Um, so taking yourself out on dates, and then again knowing what you like, because when you get together with your person, one thing that my father and my step mom have shown me is they do their own thing and then they come together. Like my father will be DJing, she will be sewing, or she'll be watching her shows, her cowboy shows, and he'll be outside. Like they spend a lot of time apart, and then they come together. They're not all up itch up. Like he'll always say, like, if you're itch up around somebody, then it's not good, because you got to give each other space, give time to miss each other. That the absence makes the heart grow fonder. So that's why I feel like it's a very important to tap into those interests and those key things that fuel you. So while you're in a relationship, you don't lose yourself, and you can still center yourself.
Absolutely. I love that. To piggyback off of the last thing you said about just having the interest, I think it's so important. We talked about it last week too, about just, self-love and self-discovery and discovering the things we like and knowing ourselves and all of that. And when it comes to advice on just like how to keep your head high during this process,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, as with all things spiritual, faith is a very important component. And it's important to have faith that the person that you're seeking is also seeking you. And if you feel like, this is what you deserve and you're putting in the work and you know what type of person you want, like have faith that that person is out there for you. And the more you have that faith, that conviction within yourself and that knowing, I feel like that can magnetize that person to you. As well, as a spiritual woman, I'm not sure fully about the apps 100%. I feel like sometimes you just need to be outside. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just need to be doing the groceries and then, because I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like we're very magnetic. So it may happen in person. And like with all things, like manifestation and with all things law of attraction, sometimes the more you seek something, the less you find it, because you're just seeing it everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I liked your advice, Keisha, because I feel like if you take that energy that you're using to seek and you put it on yourself and you start enjoying yourself, like can you enjoy yourself right now, whether or not you're in a relationship? I think
Exactly.
that will be a key. That would be very key to whether or not you are going to find that person or magnetize that person. And by the time that person comes, like, can you love your life and enjoy your life so much so that when that person comes, you're just like, I wonder if it's you. You're not like,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, maybe, are you the one I've been calling in? Let's see.
Yeah.
That's the type of like energy that I I like to carry into things. But y'all, I have enjoyed this conversation so much.
Yeah.
Um we have like we're almost 2 hours on here. I'd like honestly I know that like y'all will probably even want to continue. Like even Instagram saying like thank you so much for this conversation. A lot of confirmations. And I know that you guys here who are joining us here on YouTube have been commenting. This is the most engagement we've had so far, so I'm loving it. Next week we're going to continue our conversation, but we're going to be talking more about the divine feminine experience. So this is called Divine Feminine Discussions for a reason. Next week we're going to talk all about the sacral chakra, feminine power, discernment, using our intuition, and also the path of a light worker, which is something that we both were passionate about talking about, like authenticity and spirituality, but also just really understanding our power as women. So we're going to be continuing the conversation. If there was any conversation, for those of you who are listening the replay, put a comment down below, like, subscribe. We're coming back next week, and put a question. If you guys have a question, put it down below and we'll make sure to talk about it next week. But if you have any questions about relationships or anything that you guys want to suggest, just put it down below. We'll check on it next week. But I'm very excited for next week's conversation as well. So far, this conversation has been amazing. Thank you so much, Keisha, for
Thank you.
joining us, bringing your wisdom, forever being vulnerable with us, and shining your light. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. Everyone, give Keisha some love, give her some hearts. Give her some hearts in the
Back
chat.
at you guys. My heart's crooked. Ooh.
Why am I not having these things? Where does this come from?
Ooh, I got it again. Okay.
Like,
Your heart's wrong. That's why. You gotta fix your heart.
no, because I don't even like you were having fireworks and stuff like that. I have none of that. Where does that come from? But yeah, next week we're going to be talking about our spiritual path, our journey with authenticity, our journey with becoming more in our femininity, what femininity means to both of us, and how we've explored it, etc. So I can't wait to see y'all next week, same time. Make sure to join, and
Thank
we'll
you
see
for
y'all
joining.
soon.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you. Bye, everyone. Much love. Let me give the heart again.
Okay, you just showing off now.
Don't hate.
Bye, everyone.